Yeah, so I think Willie doesn't descend in the drops all the time because he's actually a bad descender.
Yeah.
No, actually quite the opposite. Willie's pretty handy in the peloton. He can slip through gaps pretty well.
A snow day where for some reason I don't think I've ever feared for my life as much as I did that day.
Blindfolded.
Yeah, fucking hard. But you today have a good leg, eh?
No.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we can bring the jersey.
It's taken 4 years for me to come back, but today we finally do something nice here.
Yo, mic check, mic check. Yeah, here you go. Oh, nah, he over here. Yeah, I heard he got that hot new thing. It's called
Okay guys, today I've got Nathan Haas here as my roommate, and he's one of the best bike riders in the world.
Don't go too far.
But no, he can help himself quite well, and I've got been getting a lot of questions on my YouTube channel about this last video I uploaded of why I didn't descend in the drops, and a lot of people under the perception that you have to descend in the drops. It's a pro thing to do, and Nathan's just going to explain us like key differences about people that have to descend in the drops, others who can descend in the hoods, and when you need to, when you don't need to, and all those differences.
The real truth is, like, in the really important parts of a race, and especially like steep technical downhills, it's always safer to be in drops. You definitely get better proprioception and kind of like bike feel and feedback through the hand. But the biggest thing is if you're heavy braking on a steep descent and you're on the top of the hoods, you're not going to be able to actually kind of like hold that G-force back as well as you do if you're on the drops. So that's probably the biggest reason to be on the drops on a technical downhill. And then also when it comes to actually lowering your center of gravity, if you're really starting to push the edge of the bike, you actually want to be on the drops. But on the kind of counterpoint to that, in the peloton, one of the most important things that we can have is actually being able to see what's in front of us. So if you're lowering your center of gravity by being on the drops the whole time on every downhill, you actually kind of miss what's happening over the top of the next person. The top skilled people in the best of any sport have more control and ability than probably 99% of all amateurs of that sport.
Yeah.
So for us, when we're actually sitting on the hoods, descending, you know, we're in a lot of control. We're actually doing a lot better than most people think, and you know, until we're really in that like crucial point of the race where the difference and the gaps are going to be made on the downhills, we don't need to sit in the drops. And you know, it's an option to do so if you want, but the reality is, you know, we're good enough to descend probably at 95% capacity on the tops. And especially now we have disc brakes, we have so much extra control. But yeah, it's...
Obviously with the implementation of the disc brakes as well, it's been making it easy to descend.
Yeah, and that's the thing, it's like now that we don't have kind of this like white knuckle grip on every single hard corner, because the modulation on the disc brake is so easy, and even every single time you brake, we're kind of able to sit up in the hoods a lot more. And when it comes down to being on the bike for 6-7 hours a day, and especially over the time of a Grand Tour, you know, that load adds up on all the ligaments and attachment points for all your stabilizing muscles. So it's a pretty important thing to actually be able to take load off the spine, off the body, off the shoulders.
That's so true, because I'm thinking of it. Even if you focus in training on staying in the drops all time and in this extreme position that our bikes are set up in, don't think it's so good for your digestion and your spine, like you said. Huh?
Yeah, I mean,
like the whole time.
Any time that your spine is compressed, you're actually almost kinking a hose, and that hose is delivering that, like, you know, the analogy of the water going through that hose is all your neurological signal. So if you're kinked most of the day, you're actually kinking all of the power that gets to the legs. and then also the circulation of vital flow of lymphatic fluid of blood, and in that blood is all the energy. But the reality is, if we gave Peter Sagan just one hood, one-sided handlebar, you'd probably still descend better than 99% of the peloton descending in their drops. Yeah, some people say that, why is this person descending in the hoods? They're getting dropped on the downhill. The truth is that just comes down to skill and maybe also knowledge about bike setup and just available, because you can lead a man to water, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. The information's there.
If you descend in the hoods, obviously you've got a lot more wind resistance. So it's actually, you don't always have to brake that hard in the corner sometimes. Is that true? Like sometimes I feel like if I'm doing a long descent and I'm sitting straight up in the hoods, I catch more wind. I don't need to always brake that hard as if I don't want to go full gas on the downhill.
Well, it's something that we all do subconsciously. Even when we're in the peloton and we're just trying to hold the wheel in front of us, if we start to run up on that wheel, sometimes we'll raise our head, or we'll raise our body, or we'll flare our shoulders out. And it's something that we do subconsciously. It's like
to get more drag.
It's like air braking. Because the last thing you want to do is actually hit your brakes
the whole time. And then you yo-yo, huh?
And it's the opposite as well. Is if we actually want to run onto a wheel or just close a gap, sometimes we'll close our frontal area and dip the elbows. But what I would actually argue is that it's sort of irrelevant whether you're on the drops or the hoods, because it's actually about dropping the elbow. So
it's like there's time trial positions. A lot of people think if they look more aero on the bike, they are more aero, but it doesn't work that way.
Well, aero is not a look. Aero is a thing. It's something that you can measure. But you don't necessarily need to measure academically. Sometimes we get sort of stuck in this analysis paralysis situation where we think that we need to get everything into the velodrome, we need to test everything. Whereas your instinct on the bike and your actual feeling for something being faster, genuinely, and most times out of 10, is actually going to be faster. So if we move our body in a particular way over and over and over again, our sort of subconscious reading of the situation is that, hey, we're getting faster doing this, or it's faster doing this. And I actually was lucky enough to be able to test a situation on my road bike in a velodrome. I'd always had the suspicion that actually me sitting on the drops without bending my elbows, so in a situation where maybe I'm like riding the front for a long period of time, it's actually faster for me to be on the hoods, but my elbows dip down. And it's a much more comfortable position because my lower back's not actually being sort of like bent over, but my frontal area is actually moving in a way that's more aerodynamic. So it's, aerodynamics is not a look, and a lot of the preconceived notions of what is aero can actually be wrong. Can be right, but it can also be as wrong as much as it is right. So you have to follow your instincts on these things, but any position that feels safe is probably the right one. And any position that you can get through 12 months of a year without having any chronic overuse injuries, that's probably your most ideal bike position, because any time out of the sport for injury is actually far more detrimental to any kind of loss of power. The most ideal bike position for downhilling or just getting through the season is the safe one that you can hold for 12 months a year.
Nathan, thanks a lot. For those that don't know Nathan that well yet, check out his Instagram, check him out on Twitter, and his wife as well. She's a really good photographer, and she works for Katusha Sports as well. So check them out, give them a follow, and thanks for your time, man.